Was he Jewish? Was he a communist? Why was he in a working camp?
Oh no, he was just a farmer. He was just an able-bodied Dutch person. If he was Jewish, he would have been killed.
Right.
If any reason to ship him out to a concentration camp or just take him out.
We spend a lot of time looking at where people end up. This show is about what happened on the way there. I'm Topaz Adizes, the founder of The Skin Deep in the End, and I want to bring you on a journey here. And I've sat with enough people to know that nobody gets there easy. In every conversation here, we get under the skin, exploring what life does to a person and what a person does with life. There's a great quote that I love, which is, "The purpose of life is to discover your gift. The work of life is to develop it. And the meaning of life is to give that gift away." This is about the work. It's about discovering your gift. It's about developing it and exploring how you give it away. What do we do with life? What does life do with us? It isn't always pretty, but it's always real. And hopefully it's useful for wherever you are in your point of your journey.
His grandfather survived a Nazi work camp, starving, beaten, hiding in the farmlands of northern Holland after escaping, and never talked about it. Decades later, his grandson found himself sitting with survivors of genocide, torture, and war crimes from Cambodia to Kurdistan, hearing their stories that history forgot to account for. As a Stanford professor of psychiatry and the man courts call when they need to put a dollar value on human suffering, Daryn Reicherter didn't just learn to understand trauma, he quietly shifted what the world considers justice to include. Daryn Reicherter, today we get under the skin. My impression is that you're very curious and that you're open. You're very, and I don't know if it's a phase of your life now or you've always been that way. And I also feel like for someone who's as accomplished as you, who has seen as much as you, and you've seen some and you've heard some intense things. I mean, you work in the world of trauma.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're curious? And if so, where does that curiosity come from? And like, how do you cultivate it, maintain it, not lose it?
Gosh, how do I start to answer that? I mean, I think, when we, you and I were at the Institute, and I think that one of the things that was really cool was that everyone who was there was a curious person. And I mean, I would suppose most of the candidates or the people that they even think about are generally curious people. They're people that are accomplished in some academic thing or some art thing or some, something. So, it seems like that's when you get someone who might be a candidate for this institute, they're almost certainly curious. But then the people that they actually pick, I mean, it's almost like one of the selection criterion that got me in, got you in, that got Warwick in, right? I mean, that got different people who, if they were just going, okay, well, you have to have a PhD or you have to have some number of prizes or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Some of us wouldn't have been there, others would have, but it was more like, are you cool? Can you work with other people? And really, is your curiosity something that this institute might think about weighing in on or really literally giving money to, right? It definitely went in there, Topaz, with this mindset. I was like, this is I think one of the greatest opportunities I've ever had. And that's saying a lot.
Yeah.
To be, whatever, we were in this fancy place on the 59th floor of the Salesforce Tower, which is so amazing. But that wasn't what the buzz was. Right. We could have been at my apartment or like at, the gym of a high school or something like that. The buzz was these people. And so to answer your question, I feel like I'm as curious as I've ever been. And at that event and with those people, I was just so open to hearing about their thing that was completely different from my thing. Mm-hmm. And that curiosity was, I'm really happy that I brought that when I came, because the other thing that I did that I think a lot of other people have not done is I reached out to literally everybody that was in our cohort and said, hey, I think the thing you do is cool. I want to talk more about, I want to learn more about you. Super curious and like curious about things that I don't know about. I mean, terraforming Mars, I don't know. Let's hear more.
Right.
I almost felt like, how could you not be curious in there? You're like, what the person who's building the self-assembling space station?
So
Jesus Christ.
Let's just say you're in a room where everyone's doing their work, right? And some people's work is looking through the microscope itself. Some people's work is looking through the telescope, looking at Mars, looking at space. My work is looking like what's happening in the room between the people. What would you say your work is? Is it like looking at the mental health? Is it looking at the language they're using? Is it looking for the people who are the weakest and need the best support? Like, what do you feel is your psychiatrist, clinical psychiatrist, like they focus on trauma?
That's a good question. I feel like the work is so I do two very, very different projects. One of them is the Stoked Lab, and what you're talking about now is the Human Rights in Mental Health Laboratory. And that's a place where I'm the medical director of the Center for Survivors of Torture here in California. And then I've done global mental health, wherein I'm able to weigh in on how mental health could be considered in a post-conflict, a human rights violation, a war crime. I'm being very general there, but the way that's worked out is expert reports in courts or testimony in the International Criminal Court or the Khmer Rouge Tribunal, or I was invited to talk about trauma mental health in the context of ISIS in Iraq for the Security Council. I mean, I got to brief them about it, right? And so I feel like my work is understanding how trauma affects people and how a situation is. To say it a bit of a way, I've done decades of trauma stuff, and I feel like I know it pretty well. And then you start learning about different people, different cultures, different genders, different experiences that people have, the course of trauma. I work with a bunch of Cambodian survivors that are here in San Jose, and their trauma happened in the 1970s, right? And they have one picture. And then I work with folks that are coming from Ukraine right now, right? I mean, their trauma is fresh. So my work, I think, is to go out into the world and understand what that situation is. The Yazidi folks out there in Kurdistan that had a specific thing happen to them because of ISIS, and now I'm learning about how that affects them.
But your work is like you understand not the nature of trauma, but is it the specific trauma that happens in different populations? Like is it just understanding it and seeing it, or is it then seeing it and seeing how to help heal it, or how it applies in a system? Like, what is your special skill set that you feel like? What's your special lens? Yeah.
The special skill set is to see what that is, see the system in which it's functioning, and then put that into a context for someone who can make a change. And that's usually a court, right? That's usually like an expert report that says, hey, this perpetrator did all these bad things. Now all these people have post-traumatic stress disorder or whatever. We really need to shift some money over for mental health so that they can get access. And then the court can rule on it or can actually order money. And so the special place where I am in that is not, the person that can just understand this stuff, but the team, my laboratory, being able to synthesize that into this is what a court needs to order or a money system needs to shift or whatever, so that this plan can get realized.
Well, like having the Stanford stamp helps validate it, right? In some way, as like validates the argument. Yeah. But like what I'm hearing from you, I'm going to play it back. What I'm hearing from you is like your skill set is, it's not just seeing the trauma and it's not knowing how to help solve the trauma. It's about how to present that trauma to someone who can help facilitate the healing of that trauma in a systematic way. So you can like, you can highlight what the trauma is. You can highlight the need for the recovery or for the healing and the systemic way in which that can be done, and convince the powers that be to make it happen.
Right. That's right.
That's like the junction you're at. What happened in your life that made you uniquely suited for this kind of work? And like I dare say, like uniquely suited to be successful at this kind of work. Like if you looked back at like the things, the path that you walked or the things you did as a camel to learn all those skills, or even interested in this kind of work?
Well, the answer that I have in my head is probably going to feel like a tangent.
Please. Yeah.
But I mean, I love people. Like, I love human beings. I mean, I love interacting with people. I have this, I think, I don't know. I think that is the most important thing I brought to this. And therefore, loving people, I love to have conversations with people, and I love to solve problems that are people problems. And I'm pretty good at it. I'm pretty good at like managing things or seeing solutions in things, right? And then I think what you're asking me about though is why trauma? Why was that the thing? And I don't know.
But even just the thing about loving people, like where did that come from?
Dude, I don't know.
Did you love people as a kid?
When I went to college, I was gonna be a philosophy major because I wanted to like think deep thoughts and have awesome conversations and all this. And I kind of walked in the door just like, I don't know, stoked, like loving life, and most of that stoke has to do to me with interpersonal stuff. I mean, I'm getting used to sometimes being by myself, but I love being with other people. I thrive in it. So I ended up getting my degree in philosophy and then also neuroscience, right? I mean, for the medical stuff. But I mean, I don't know how far back I go, but I mean, being social has just always been an element that makes me thrive. And then I think both my parents are very empathetic people who kind of, so I think human rights was a natural fit for me,
coming from them.
I think so. I mean, I don't know how to describe them. They're not quite hippies because they're a little bit older than a hippie, but they're pretty free thinkers in general. And so I don't know. I don't know if it came from that. I just know this. I mean, my whole life I love to interact with other people. It's just, I thrive when that's true. I'm really at my worst when I'm in a solitude that isn't by choice, when I'm like cut off from people, or when I'm going through some hard time where I'm just not interacting with enough people or something like that. Like, that's my worst. My best is when I'm flowing in conversation with another person. And I don't know. I don't know that necessarily translates over into the work that I do that we're talking about, but it seems to me that that's core.
It is the loving of people and loving being in conversation with people. Right?
I think so. I mean,
let me ask you
look,
this.
I don't get like a champion award or like, I mean, I barely put it on my CV because that isn't the point. Mm-hmm. The point is to walk away from a place or to have an interaction with a people or a group of people and just be like, oh yeah, we have this great idea in Kurdistan that more money could go to provide, resources for these refugees. And then Baghdad, the actual government, actually put this money into this program that we created, and then you walk away from it. You're not like pat yourself on the back, but it's more like, I know that community and I was in it and I was able to flow with the people in that community a little bit and, was able to make them flow better. I mean, that's the stoke, man.
That's the stoke. We're going to get to the stoke laboratory, and I'll ask a question that leads us there, but tell me 3 things. If you had to go back and look at your life, what are 3 things that happened to you that led you to this moment? What are the 3? Give me 3 big intersections that come up.
So I'm going to give you somebody else's a little bit, because this is what someone else thinks is a really important thing. And I think they're right.
About you. About you.
About me, yes.
Great.
And so that is that my mother's and her family she was born under Nazi occupation in Holland. And they moved over here, 10 years after freedom was restored there. But my grandpa was in a work camp under the Nazis. And, we don't even know what happened to him because he had never talked about it, but he was beaten. He was tortured. He witnessed, Nazis weren't the nicest guys.
But this is your grandfather or your father? This is your grandfather.
Sorry, my grandfather.
Yeah.
And they moved to the United States. My mother married my father, but, there's an immigrant story to me becoming who I am.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I think about people have sort of said, well, that's why you do the stuff you do. I'm like, I don't know I'm not sure if that's true. In fact, I don't even know that I thought about it consciously at all.
Did you ever talk to him about it? Because I know he didn't talk about
grandpa
it.
Yet? Yeah, he just, he didn't talk about details, but he's like, yeah, it was really hard. And he had scurvy and he was starving and like all these terrible things. Right. And he'd say, yeah, it was really hard. The story is better than that, actually. When he found out that whatever his wife was going to deliver, he escaped from the camp. And so for the rest of the war, after my mom was born, he had to hide out in Friesland, which is the north part of Holland, and under threat of, if they found him, like they just murder him or whatever, and execute him. And so there's that whole story. It was as terrible and also as Hollywood as it sounds, and that that is a background story.
Was he Jewish? Was he a communist? Why was he in a working camp?
Oh no, he was just a farmer. He was just an able-bodied Dutch person. If he was Jewish, he would have been killed.
Right.
If any reason to ship him out to a concentration camp or just take him out. But he was an able-bodied. He's a young, strong farmer, and they're like, dude, you work for us now.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a work camp, not a concentration camp. And that's why he was able to escape. If he was in a concentration camp, he would not have been able to. So I don't know, maybe that's a background. It's there. And then people say, well, now you're sort of you're looking at the same thing that your family faced and hoping to apply a little bit of justice there in the same realm. Yeah, sure. It doesn't drive me. It doesn't move me. I don't go, this is for grandpa or something. I don't think that. But I do think this. The poor fucking dude just wanted to have a family and live a normal life and whatever, milk cows and love his wife and raise his kids and all of that stuff. And the injustice of that being interrupted is moving. And you look at the world and you see it happening all over the place. Civilians don't want unrest. They don't want human rights violations. It's these powers that be that can do that. And it's pretty terrible. And so I look at that and I say, well, is there a fix on the other side after people have been through that? And then, that's the work that I do in the Human Rights Lab.
When did you choose to go into psychiatry from philosophy and neuroscience? How did that come up?
There was some logic there. I still have somewhere like a little notepad where I wrote down like a decision tree thing about what to do. And it was, as I said, I went to college thinking philosophy, and I guess at the same time learning that I was very good at science, and I was like, that opens up. That was a dragon scale for me too. When I was 18 years old, I can't do math. I'm not good at science. All this stuff, and you get a college level science, and you're like, wait a second, this is so fun. This is so amazing. Like I can't believe this.
Was that science or was it psychiatry?
No, science, science. Physics and biology, and I was just like, wow, dude. I don't know how much you want me to talk about this. I haven't this for your show, but I'll tell you.
Yeah. Tell me.
One of the things that I'm working on with myself is this idea of breaking down barriers or self-constructions, things that I think, that a person thinks about themselves that may or may not be true, but you hold it almost like that's a fact, right? there's a whole metaphor that comes from Friedrich Nietzsche about that.
Tell me.
Do you know about the camel, the lion, and the child metaphor?
No. Tell me.
I won't. He talks about the lion has to fight a dragon, and the dragon has all these scales that are all the self-conceptions or the things that you think about yourself or the world that you haven't really analyzed, but you just like, that's a fact. Like I'm not good at math. I can't do math. And then you get to college and you're like, nah, I don't know what to do. Well, maybe you are good at math. You never know. So the metaphor is, it's from one of his books, and the metaphor is, in order to become totally realized, you must first be a camel, then a lion, and then a child. And you go, okay, what's this? What the fuck is this guy talking about? Right? All right, what does he mean? And then he kind of completes the metaphor. He's like, the camel is a beast of burden, and you have to gain a knowledge set. You can't go out into the world and become whatever it is you're going to be. A computer scientist or a Stanford professor, or you can't do that without loading on you a lot of knowledge or duty or things that he's calling burden, right? Or whatever, learning about religion or all of these cultural sanctions, all of these knowledge-based things. You in order to function, you have to acquire those things, right?
Yeah.
But then after that, you must become the lion that questions all of that and kind of goes, okay, wait a second. Now I know all this stuff. I have all this information, but I'm a lion, man. I'm not a camel. You can't put shit on me all the time. I'm ready to go, because I'm a fierce animal. And then that lion has to fight the dragon. And of course, the dragon is the thing where we were just talking about, where it's got the scales that say, prohibitions or limitations or whatever. And then the final chapters, once the dragon is slain, then you can become the child. And what he means by that is going with all that foundation, with all that background, with all that knowledge, with all the skill, right? Then you can go back to the completely open mind that doesn't have those limitations, but it does have all of that basis, all of the stuff that was loaded on the camel's back, right? That's knowledge and all that. You have it. So when you take that dragon, you take the dragon scale down and you say, well, I really can do whatever. I have the capacity to do calculus and, physics and stuff. Then you say, well, in that case, what's my limit? Or is there one? If you think you can't do math, then you're never going to be a nuclear physicist. But if you realize that that's dragon scale and you actually can, then you can do what you want, And so, so that was a point at which I kind of took down dragon scales, and I, continued to study philosophy, but then just went nuts in the science stuff, and I just ate it up. All of this in the context by being fascinated by human psychology and the love of being alive on this planet. And so the degree actually at Santa Cruz is not neuroscience. It's what the fuck is my degree in? It's it's in psychobiology, right?
Okay.
And so
that sounds even better.
That tees you up to be a psychiatrist. Then you go to medical school and you have to learn anatomy and the lung physiology and all this stuff that's way outside of that.
But like, why do you even go to medical school? Like, what was there a moment there when you did the decision tree? What were the other options? Yeah,
the decision tree was about should I be a pediatrician or should I be a surgeon or what should I do? But I think when I applied to medical school and was going to go to medical school, part of it was like, I want a foundation in human health science. I can think of no greater life than to deliver healing to other people. I mean, that's like, what a gift, right? What a cool thing to be able to do. And so, yeah, I think that was a decision tree.
But where do you think that value or that perspective came from? Like, did you save a kid when you were a kid? Like, did you save a kid who was drowning? Did you see someone do that? Did you was that just instinct? Where do you think?
I mean, I saved my best friend from drowning, in high school, but that wasn't the moment that I said, I gotta keep saving people or something. Not at all.
But that's true. It did happen. See, I knew there was something in there.
I did. My friend, dude. So, okay. Quick story.
Yeah.
It was graduation day from high school. And so we were kind of fucking around, and we went I grew up in, I went to high school in El Dorado County. So it's a place in California up in the mountains, El Dorado County. And so we, instead of doing what we were supposed to do, and I can't remember what it was, we were supposed to go to some pre-graduation seminar or some formal thing. We played hooky from that. We went up to the river, where we go cliff diving and swimming and all that jazz. And the river is high because it's graduation time, so it's springtime, whatever, May. And George and I were with this other dude, John, and we were walking, we were wading across the river, and it was rushing. Right. So if you want to, for the mental image, it's like granite boulders and rushing water in a high Sierra situation. And we were like, dude, this is a little dangerous, like maybe we should have gone around. Well, we're 18-year-old, 17-year-old. I don't remember, just, okay, whatever, let's go.
Yeah.
And he misstepped, and there was a big boulder that was out of the water and a little whirlpool that went under that boulder. And he misstepped, and I was looking the other direction, and all I heard was help. And he was gone. And he went down that whirlpool under the boulder. And I don't know, man, here's my, superhuman strength story. I guess all that adrenaline and all that shit. I braced myself against that boulder, and I reached down and grabbed this dude around his arm and shoulder and pulled him out of the whirlpool and put him up on the rock.
Wow. With one arm.
Yeah, right? I turned into Superman for just a minute.
Wow.
And then we kind of, at graduation, right? We're looking at each other like, dude, like this is the diploma's cool, but holy shit. Right?
We're alive.
We're alive, and we're just like, we were like buzzing off of that. And it's kind of funny because I almost forgot that story, but I'm still really good friends with this dude, George. This is the thing, is I wasn't coming up without George. Like if I braced myself and went down to grab him, and all ego went away. Like if he would have grabbed me and he would have been stuck, I would have gone down with him. We would have both been dead.
Wow.
And that's a weird feeling because you can't anticipate it.
Right.
Right. I mean, you can imagine someone trying to save another person, and you can't do it. You save yourself. That was gone. It was absolutely gone from my mind. It was like immediately I needed to do that, and it scares the shit out of me to this day that mindset is in there. I mean, I guess it sounds good. It sounds like a hero, but
a hero can also die. You're saying
scary. That's right.
I think sometimes there's moments in life that I'm grateful for that about our identity, because we talk about these scales, like I'm not a horse person, I'm not strong, I'm not this, I'm not whatever. And then some moments, and it doesn't happen throughout a lot, but there are certain moments where like it's just you act, and that act comes from an identity that you're not conscious of. You know what I'm saying?
You're tapping into exactly what I'm talking about. And right. If you think about it, that's crazy for both of us to die.
Mm-hmm.
But there was, the ego was gone. It was all, maybe this is the thing you're asking me about, Topaz, is like, at that moment, there was no, I'll get all magical in California on you.
Please. Yeah. Pass the joint. I'm with you.
There was no me and George. There was just a common consciousness, whatever. It wasn't like I was separate from him. It was like, it wasn't like, hey, my friend fell in this thing, I should probably, it was like, there was only one thing that had to happen, and that was just save my friend from drowning, period. Like, I don't know how to, And he said it was kind of funny because I mean, we're both 54 years old now, and that happened so long ago. And I wouldn't say I forgot about it, but I mean, definitely wasn't something on my mind. And he said I can't remember what we were doing, and he just said, "Hey, dude, thanks for saving my life." And I was like, dude, I haven't thought about that in forever, man.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know that that's something that shaped this calling to whatever, be a healthcare provider to heal people. I mean, that's something.
So interesting.
Maybe if I said it a different way, Topaz, I mean, if you went back and told my 15-year-old self that my 55-year-old self would be what I am, I wouldn't even understand what it meant, right? If you went back and told my 20-year-old self, I'd be like, really? Wow, that seems like a diversion from where I'm at. If you went back and told my 30-year-old self, would be like, oh, good, the path is going somewhere cool. And if you went back and told my 40-year-old self, I'd be like, okay, as planned.
So what happened between 20 and 30 that became the clear path?
I mean, I think that's when I was in medical school and seeing
psychiatry
and opportunities in psychiatry. And I think it was really when I started doing the international stuff and especially the court stuff in the international world, where I just said, there's a void here. No one, there are really smart people who are doing mental health stuff. There are really smart providers that are out there, but there's no one looking at like the bigger system. And especially in the courts, trauma psychology is something that everyone talks about. It's in court. It's the whole premise of why we're here. And yet no one is defining it or talking about it. Like in the Nuremberg Tribunal, where they're looking at Nazi crimes. I mean, I don't know that they use the word trauma. They don't talk about like the mental health outcomes. Everything they talk about is murder, property damage, like those kinds of crimes. And they're not talking about the people that came out of concentration camps and still had, angst and psychological pathology and for sure PTSD, right? All that stuff that's not considered in those courts. And so then when you fast forward up to really the Khmer Rouge Tribunal was the first time, the expert report that we put in there was the first time that was formally considered.
What year was that?
The first one was 2011.
Wow. Not that long ago. There's
a void. And if we can fill that void, we can really create change.
But the void was how to take this trauma that's arguably like a person having an emotional reaction to something horrible, tragedy, but putting it into words that society can, into a system that can understand what it is, what the impact is, what the cost is, and how much to allocate resources to solving that, to healing that going forward.
That is precisely what I'm going to do after this interview, is write that report for the Republic of Guatemala. But the thing that I do is what you just said. I'm able to take that and put it into a concrete thing that a judge, a politician, can read and say yes or no, or here's the money. So it gets real concrete in the end there. But my life is about the experience that leads me up to, yeah. I mean, I don't remember, Topaz, did I send you the volcano picture?
No, you did not.
Okay. So now we're good enough friends that I can send you the volcano picture. Yeah. So, I mean, we just went down into this amazing thing in Guatemala, that looks like it's gonna, create real big change for them. And again, bring, I'm looking for it right now, and bring a lot of, new mental health services to a lot of people. I'm so proud and excited. But, in the meantime, we went and climbed a volcano.
It makes me think of. Yeah, what it makes me think of?
Here, you ready for it? Here you go.
Yeah, I'm ready. Send it to me. I'm getting it on my
and
phone.
this is taken by iPhone 16.
Holy! I'm gonna show that to the screen.
Yeah.
Holy moly! Look at that.
So I mean that,
Whoa.
So that, that's after we met with, folks from Congress and all these amazing people out in the community that do community psych and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then you get to go there with a native Guatemalan who's like, hey, you want to see something cool? Let's go watch this volcano erupt. And you're like, oh my God, yeah, let's go. Yeah. Let's drive a Jeep through the jungle, hack our way up into 13,000 feet and like watch the sunrise with a volcano going off in the background. That sounds pretty fun, right?
So it makes me think of, there was a long period of my life when I was researching war photographers, conflict photographers.
Yeah.
For a script I was working on, I was really interested in. And in my research, I ended up talking to Thomas Dvorak, who's an incredibly talented photographer at Magnum. And I remember talking to him, and he said, yeah, it's nice to get the shot, but what I really enjoy is the journey to get the shot. It's like getting to the place, speaking to the people, sitting there, and it's not, the shot is nice, and I know I offer value by getting the shot and, sharing that with the world, but actually it's those small moments in between, is the connections with the people. It's the discovering the way forward. It's the, it's the meals shared. It's the stories told, the jokes shared. It's the, it's like the human part. I hear that in what you're saying. Yeah.
The first big international thing I did was I went to, I went to work with kids that had lost their families during the tsunami in Indonesia. So it was around whatever that was, 2004. And
that's the first big thing you've done?
As the first big international trauma project. Yeah. And I mean, whereas now I go out into the world with a great amount of knowledge and hopefully wisdom, I didn't know shit, Topaz, when I went there. I didn't know anything, And they're going, well, this is here's this guy who's board certified. I don't know if I was board certified yet, but I just finished my residency, and they're like, oh, this scholar, the Stanford guy, and all this stuff. And I was like, they were my teachers.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, every single moment out there was education for me. And I mean, probably the first, 8 years was me learning about what the thing is that I do now. Mm-hmm. That first rodeo, dude. Like, what the fuck, man? And not only are you going to Indonesia, right? But you're going to the disaster zone. There's like a cargo ship up on the mountain, and like everything's like literally it still stinks from dead bodies. And
wow.
And at the same time you're like, okay, and you're learning the new food, and you're learning what their understanding of what trauma is even means.
So,
I mean, dude, we were talking to somebody there, and they said, I think the tsunami happened because Allah was angry with us. And
mm-hmm.
And the colleague I was there with, he's like, why would Allah be angry? He's like, well, because of the civil war in Aceh. And so God just decided, fuck you guys. You guys need to stop having this war. By the way, I'm cussing like a sailor. Is that all right?
That's fine. It's great. I fucking love it. Keep going.
Okay. And so he's like, yeah, that's why the tsunami happened, is because God just got sick of us having the civil war, and he just sent this, wave. And my friend, who is also a psychiatrist, and he's like, what does that do to a culture? They must be so personally offended by that. And they must feel so shameful, and they must feel so like that must really affect how the trauma is. Right.
Mm.
And so we had more conversation with the same guy, and he's like, oh no, it's like actually kind of freeing. It means it wasn't really my fault. God's just, waved his hand, and this big wave came, and it was kind of like a knock it off for putting us on a timeout. I'm like, wow, dude, like Like it's a completely different shift or take on it than how the Western people might have thought that would be taken. And that's not even to say that that's what people in Banda Aceh thought about the tsunami. That's what one person thought, right? And so you're on this learning curve, and then, I had these experiences in Cambodia, and then you start having them in all these different places, and you're kind of going, okay, now I know what's the same in every place. And I also see what things are different in every place, so that when I go to a new place, I make sure the things that I think are going to be the same are. And then I look around me and I say, what new things do I need to learn? How does it work here that's different from these other places, right? And so I've gotten pretty good at that, Topaz. And like that's become the beauty of this and the fun. And then it's like one other thing. You have to think, like, I'm not going out and meeting business people who are trying to plot, like buy land. I'm not going out and meeting people that are looking for oil. I'm going out and meeting the people who care so much about trauma mental health that they've devoted their lives to it. Right. Those are the colleagues I get to hang out with.
That's your tribe.
So when someone says, dude, you want to come over for dinner? Before you go there, that this is an empathetic person who's done everything they can for this cause that I also think is amazing. So that's also the beauty of it.
That's beautiful. Let's talk about the shadow. How do you deal with processing that trauma? Like, how do you deal with the trauma that you're witnessing just by association or by witnessing through their story or the remnants of? Like, what's your way to, I don't know if clean it up, but like, to regain your grounding, to process that information out so it doesn't stay in your systtem.
Yeah, I mean, so I teach on it, right? I teach about how to protect against secondary trauma. And then I thought I had a plan. And I did. I mean, there's a lot of outlets, right? I mean, I used to coach baseball for my son. Like, that was super fun. The Stoked Project actually is a really nice balance and that sort of thing.
Came out of baseball.
Yeah. And, doing like healthy things, having strong relationships. But I mean, I'm doing very well now where it's like, whatever I'm doing seems to be working. I think I do use my own formal coping strategy that I teach to people. But I'll tell you, I guess the way I want to answer that question is I think the thing that's the greatest coping strategy, it is the community of people that I work with on these projects. I mean, really, man, like hearts of gold. I mean, people that will volunteer 100 hours. I'm working with this psychiatrist, Gabby, she's a Stanford person, but she's from Guatemala, and she kind of brought the project into our purview and got it in the lab. And there's an asylum there in Guatemala that I can't remember. It has like 150 whatever patients, and for this report that we're writing, they wanted data on them. And Gabby was down there in Guatemala, and she says, how are we going to get all that data? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to get it all in time to include it in this expert report. Because there's people that are pretty cool down there, but I don't know who's going to volunteer to do that. And she's like, I'll do it. And I'm like, Gabby, that's crazy. She did it, man.
Why is it crazy? Because it's 100 hours a week, or what? Why is it crazy?
It's just it's way too many people. It's way too much for one person to take on. And she just said, I care about this so much that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. And I'm like, don't overdo it. Be careful with your own, like talk about secondary trauma stuff. I mean, she went and did it and collected all of the stuff we need and wrote it up. And that's what I'm going to review after I talk to you. That's part of what I'm going to review. So, I mean, the heart of gold. So how do I do it? I keep community with people like that.
Right. You can't keep it bottled up, right? I mean, in your class, I assume it's like letting it. I have somebody very close to me who is a therapist who, I don't think they have a therapist. Like, I don't think they have a way to let it out. And I think you can see it in the body.
You know what? Yeah, that's another thing, man. When you asked the question, I mean, I almost forgot like the very obvious answer. I've been in psychotherapy in my life before, and didn't never really found it very useful. And maybe it's because of the way I was participating wasn't as open as I've become. But in the last year, I went to see a very talented therapist who, changed the way I process this stuff and really like brought me around to I'm in a very different place with this, man.
It takes a village, not just to raise a kid, but to like heal one another, to like support one another. No, it's like I had a conversation yesterday with a very talented person who was like, yeah, I just don't know if I know that about myself. It wasn't for my friend or my colleague to reflect that. And it takes people to reflect back. It's like you might not know your greatest superhero strength. It actually comes because people say, hey, you know what? That was really helpful. Thank you. But you're really good at that. I appreciate that.
I completely agree with what you just said. And I feel like, yeah, maybe we're very California right now with the whole, the universe, but it's true. It's true. Right. And, yeah.
It's true for us.
I think there are probably people who are superheroes outside of the context of a community, or that's whatever it's a different thing that's happening with them. But I think for me, and it sounds like for you too, like your superhero strength has to occur in the context of other human beings, and really for the betterment of other people. Period.
Yeah. I'm interested in where it comes from.
It comes from what's obvious, right? I mean, that should be the natural state of human beings. That should be our baseline. And for some reason, in some people and in a lot of people, in a lot of communities, when you look at the news at all the war and all this crap, somehow they're off the baseline, man. I think you are on it. Now here, I'm real California right now. I mean, think about it. We're just, we're primates. We're supposed to be eating leaves and fucking trees and stuff. We're not necessarily supposed to be running around like attacking each other, right? I mean, I think family and community, like the state of peace and sharing, I think that should be the baseline, not something that we have to work really, really hard to get to, or go to 1,000 hours of mindfulness to get to a place where we are grateful for other people and care about the people in our community and want to invite more people into our community and learn more about other people. I mean, it seems like that should be our baseline.
What came up for me was this realization in the face of AI, the importance of community. And in the face of the stories we're getting fed now in the algorithms, i.e., the impending apocalypse with AI and financial crash and war in Taiwan and Ukraine and this and that. And we need a new story. Yeah. And I know that's such a cliche thing, but what's that new story? And I think the new story keeps coming community. And how do you build community? It's actually not through the algorithm. It's actually sitting across from somebody and hearing their story.
That's right. I mean, what you and I do is not that different, honestly. I share space. I share space with someone who's been through a lot, and I share empathy with that person, not pity ever, but empathy. And that space becomes something that's sacred, and hopefully it lends to somebody being a little bit better, or getting a little bit more care or some resource or something like that. But honestly, whatever. When I sit with somebody, the hour that I have with them as a healer is sacred. If I'm out in the field and I'm not going to be their psychiatrist or whatever, I'm not going to be their clinician. Just the moment that we have is sacred to me, and I hope it's sacred to that other person. I think that's basically what you do in your business.
How does your skill set fit in with the Stoked Lab? What's going on with the Stoked Lab, and how is that connected to your work with trauma? Where's the bridge there?
I mean, I don't know.
Is it two sides of the same coin?
Maybe.
Is that two sides of the same?
I don't know. I mean, look, it's so that class is something that we started doing. It's a seminar at Stanford. We started doing it about 10 years ago. We teach it in the winter quarter, and it is a very hands-on, experiential class about how to maximize your experience to the extent that you have control over how to maximize it. So including knowing more about yourself, understanding who you are, really for Stanford students, it's asking them to be the camel and the lion at the same time a little bit. It's like,
Right.
like let's look at those dragon scales early on, and don't be defined by them. Don't find yourself 10 years down the road stuck with dragon scales. If you're here because your parents want you to be an engineer, I mean, you might want to have a conversation with your parents about that, because if you want to be a therapist or an artist, what I'm saying? Like that, the course is about like a self-reflection so that you can maximize your potential. Mm-hmm. And Topaz, we take on the first day, the students, they're freshmen, and we take them out in a classroom, and they sort of go around the room and we say, introduce yourself. And they go, oh yeah, okay, I'm Jesse. I'm from Ventura, California, and I'm a computer science major, and kind of next. They go around the room that way. And then I take them over to Leland Stanford's grave, and I read them The Eternal Return from Friedrich Nietzsche, and I read them the Mask of the Red Death from Edgar Allan Poe, and we talk about the absolute transience of life and how we all understand that we're born with a terminal illness called life, right? And it ends, and that makes it even more awesome and beautiful, But I say, look, we're all wearing those Stanford shirts, and he had a bodacious life. I don't, he's a rich dude and did all kinds of shit, but he's dead. And you're going to die too, And the other thing I do with that is I kind of say, does anybody, before we go out to the thing, does anybody here have a bucket list? And, nobody really does. Or somebody goes, yeah. And, oh, what do you know on your bucket list? Oh, I just want to graduate from Stanford. You're like, well, shit, you're already here. Just stay here, or you will. You know what I'm saying? Like, so then we go do that experience at the mausoleum. Then we come back in, and I say, okay, now introduce yourselves. It's like, I'm Jesse from Ventura, and my sister died from cancer, and it made me want to go be a doctor and go be an oncologist.
Wow. Yeah.
And I am stoked about the possibility of jumping into cancer research for a lifelong, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then and then they go around the room and kind of like have these bold, real live person introductions. And then I say, now what's on your bucket list? What's on your bucket list? And they're like,
right.
I want to go, I want to study in Paris for a year. Or what's on your bucket list? I want to, one of my favorite ones that I ever heard after we did that spontaneous thing is a young woman said, girl, whatever, she's a freshman. She said, she grew up in New York, out in Brooklyn. And she said, I want to be the wise old lady that all the little kids come to for advice.
Ooh, that's nice.
I was like, that's a bucket list right there.
That's nice.
Like, you're thinking out of the box in terms of bucket list, awesome.
I have here the self deck, which is probably one of my favorites. And we do this in everyone. I'm going to flick through these cards. You're going to tell me stop.
Oh, God.
You're going to read out the question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want, but
okay, I'll try.
We'll just read it out. So tell me when to stop.
Okay, I'll try it. Now. Stop. What's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is I can stop growing.
Boom.
You want me to keep going?
I mean, if you want, I mean, shit, that's fucking strong.
The worst thing that could happen to me is I could stop my growth and remain in the exponential growth has been so good for myself and for everybody around me. And if it's if it gets stunted or stops, then I would feel like that was the worst thing that could happen right now. It's the worst thing that can happen ever, but right now, yeah.
It's funny because we were just talking about death and how that's always present. And it's like, you would think you'd say that. It's like, no, it's not death. That's not the worst thing. The worst thing is not growing through.
I mean,
to grow. Yeah.
Death is just death is part of it, man. I mean, if someone could wave a magic wand and I could live forever, I wouldn't want to.
Me neither.
Right. I mean, I heard about people that are, and like, it's kind of science fiction, but people are really talking about, like, can you code a human brain into a computer and then it can live forever? I'm like, well, I don't fucking want that. I want to grow old and do shit and then die. Like,
that suggests the choices you make now mean something. Because if you could live forever, I'll do this now and I'll do that later, and I'll have them infinite choices. Like, no. You don't have infinite choices. Right. Where you spend your time means something.
But even just loving the fact that we are in these bodies, right? And that we're men, we're alive on this planet. Everything fucking dies. There's nothing lives forever. That's the point.
Yeah. Daryn, you're the man. I so much appreciate your time and your energy here. This is one of many conversations.
I hope so.
Thank you.
I love you.
That means a lot. Thank you, Daryn.
I want to be with you all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go.
I want to thank you for joining me in this conversation. I hope it had some utility. I hope it offered a reflection of what maybe life is shaping you for, and maybe it offered a missing piece to the puzzle of your life. It was a pleasure for me, and I appreciate your time and attention. Please subscribe to our channel so that you can stay abreast of all the new episodes we have coming out. And until next time, thank you so much.
Guts is a Skin Deep media production. The show is produced and edited by Gonzalo Torres Ocampo, with editorial support from Anthony Cabral, and executive produced by me, Topaz Adizes. Special thanks to all the guests who showed guts, without whom there would be no getting under the skin. Interested in joining our community and following this journey? Visit guts.podcast on YouTube, Instagram, and theskindeep.com for in-depth conversation card games that create the space for connection, intimacy, and deeper conversation.